Hello everybody and welcome back to another Dark and Darker video, the next episode in the series, How to Solo Ranger. I've been playing pretty much exclusively Ranger since the last wipe, and I've been loving it. Solo Ranger is very powerful. Very powerful. Now it's like inverted commas powerful, because as a default, but again as default anything, you just suck so bad, and it hurts really bad playing a default ranger, because the recurve bow that you start with just does it tickles the enemy. It doesn't do very much. Don't even get me started on the short sword that you start with, because that is just one of the worst melee weapons in the game, period. I just can't believe how bad it is. Now, when you're starting in and you happen to spawn in this area, one of the best things that you can do is pop down a trap on this door, because 90% of the time, somebody is going to rush you through this door. And if you put a trap there, it can, you can take a few people off, take a few people off guard. All it takes is one person with a couple of nice items to walk into your Venus flytrap, as it was, and you can friggin' fill them up with arrows and get yourself a nice set of gear. You can jump crouch the doors there. It doesn't seem like you should be able to, but hey ho, you can. I know that the fighter has run around this area, and seeing that goblin die was my like, okay, this is definitely happening. He's definitely here. So I'm just trying to get a good position, falling off of this, not being able to jump at all in the right way, seeing if I can get some sort of like particular angle on the fighter at the moment. This spot right here, absolutely amazing for rangers and for rogues going invis. But there you go, boom. Couple of shots and it was over. Default fighter, so not really got anything for me, and it does look like he's used his one bandage that would have been useful for me, so literally got nothing out of that one, but that's fine. At least we've dealt with some of the competition over this room, which is probably the most competitive room out of the Goblin Caves, just because of the amount of stuff that you can get out of it, right? Like, you've got the mummies down the one side of the corridor, which will like always drop jewelry, or not jewelry but gems. Most of the time will drop gems, and that always goes for like 10 gold per, which is really nice. And then you've got all the shells filled with loot around here, which is really nice as well. Spear is what I'm using, as you've noticed. I would say the spear is probably one of the best melee weapons in the game, and if you are playing a default ranger out there and you are as infuriated with the short sword as me, and you're just not getting on with it whatsoever, once you get out and you've got like 100 gold or so behind you, just buy yourself like 5 or 6 or 7 even of the default grey spears when they come in on the weaponsmith, and start using the spears, because genuinely, night and day, so much easier to deal with this game with a spear. The range that you've got is absolutely awesome. The damage you do is really good. You can keep people sort of at a distance. Make sure clerics don't get too close to you when they want to run up and hit you with their mace or something like that. Admittedly, fighters are still going to charge you down, and that will still happen, but it gives you more breathing room for sure. Definitely more breathing room. So we're doing our looting. We're putting our traps down. It's sort of a pro and a con, really, of the ranger, is that you get traps. You get given 2 traps when you start, right? But you can buy 5 more from the woodsman. You can buy up to 5, I believe, every time his sort of store refreshes, and then you can buy another 5. So you can walk in with, like, if you want to, you can walk in with like 6 hunting traps. 2 is fine, but when you start having more, 4, 6, this is when it starts to the ranger really starts to get interesting, because you can slowly start to block exits off, right? You start figuring out where the circle is going to be. Once you play the game enough, you know what the most contested rooms are. I thought I heard some Barb in this direction, and I was just looking over the doors, couldn't see anything, but I know that down here is a more contested area, because again, mummies and pots are up here, so there's like a fair amount of gold to be had down this corridor. So, and then slowly being able to put your traps down, like, okay, I'm going to turn off the light here, pop a trap in, like, on the mummy's body, right, so the trap doesn't, you can hide your trap pretty well. I did see somewhere that you could shoot an arrow and put a trap on the arrow. Like, so if you shoot an arrow at the door and the arrow is hovering off the door, right, you can put a trap on top of that arrow. I don't know if you can still do that. That is just so broken. I don't do it myself, but I know that you can. Or you might not be able to. They might have patched it, but last time I checked, you could anyway. Couldn't see any, couldn't see any Bard down here. And look, as I turn my corner, and I've done a fair bit of looting now. We've killed that one default fighter. Not very good, to be honest, but we're pretty healthy on loot right now. We've got enough where we would consider wanting to get out, but not quite yet. Not quite yet. I think there's a little bit more that we can do here for sure. Now, I hear the footsteps, and I can see there is the Bard. Now, we miss all 3 shots, and I decide that we're going to go full spear. And then we get a nice touch on him. He hits me with a rapier once. He did he missed his second shot. So that was I managed to beat the Barb there in a bit of melee combat, which is I shouldn't really have won that, but we did. So hey, we're going to be grateful. So we begin to open the second portal that we've encountered as our getaway strategy. Our bags are pretty full, and so we are pretty much good to go right now. I see another ranger, could be a fighter, and I'm like, hey friend. I decide that I'm gonna play friendly here, and I see the Barb, and I'm like, nah, get out of here, Barb. I don't want none of that. So Barb tries to charge me. Yeah, dealt with. I think, bless him, that Barb, he obviously saw me, saw the other guy, and he was like, what's going on here? I don't know which way to go. I'm being friendly here. I'm not being friendly for any particular reason. I just sometimes I like to be friendly. Sometimes I just don't want to kill you, or I don't want to attempt to kill you. I'm not saying that I would kill you. He might have got me, to be fair, but do you just have those moments where you're just like, hey, do you know what? Maybe this time I will be friendly. So we're just filling up the bags, getting ourselves completely as full as we can. We've made some good coin this run, and we certainly don't want it to go to waste now. And the ranger is out of our head. A couple of lanterns that we could sell. Mage throwing some friggin' arcane missiles at me down the way, and I'm like, okay, no problem. Fireball. I think we managed to snag him with 1 arrow, and this dude is struggling to hit his fireballs, but so I'm getting pretty confident here. I'm thinking, yeah, I can do this. And he hits me into the spike trap. And I'm like, oh my god. Shivers down my spine. That ice bolt, that would have been me, game over. That ice bolt, that would have been me, game over. And luckily I managed to just like avoid death by the absolute skin of my nose. And I know that mage is tamping. I know he's so angry. We managed to pepper him and get him down, so we've dropped him now, and he's got a fair few bit of loot for us as well, so I'm just thinking, okay, well, we need to just arrange our bags in the most profitable way. I decided to just get rid of the big scroll, because it doesn't tend to give me very much. The big scrolls don't tend to give you very much anyway, and I opt to just fill with like potions and other like trinkets and treasures instead. I think the Barb ends up having like a green clarity potion on him, I think, that I end up snagging. But there you go, guys. That's it. That's a nice little successful run. Again, one of the key things that you're going to want to be doing is placing down traps, making sure that you're blocking off exits and putting yourself in a good position for victory when it comes down to those last few portals, right? Anyway, now we've finished the game. You've seen a little bit of combat. You've seen a bit of the gameplay. Let's go over the perks. Let's go over the skills that we'll be using. And then let's talk about, finally, the weapons to close out the video. So perks and skills, let's start off with the fact that there's a few of these that I would argue are interchangeable, but certainly some that are more popular than others. So let's just start with probably the most popular skill on the Ranger, the quick shot. Quick shot is very good, very strong. When you've got a longbow, which is the strongest or the hardest hitting out of all of the bows that you can use, quick shot with the longbow, it can be pretty goddamn deadly. So that is up there with one of your better ones. Now, ration, field ration. This is, I would argue, probably second most popular. But again, just remember, when you've got yourself some money and you've got yourself some coin going in and you can afford those meds and you're not so stressed about having those field rations, the one that you'd more likely not want to change it to is quickfire, because it's just 50% increased draw speed. You know, that's more DPS as far as I'm concerned. And so that is going to be what helps push you over the edge with getting, you know, them quick kills out really quickly when you need to. But when you're starting out, and maybe even after that, to be honest, like I've got myself a bit of gear now, but I struggle to get rid of field ration because it's just literally so damn good. So that's the skills. Obviously, you've got forceful shot, multi-shot, penetrating shot, and true shot. I don't see people use very much of any of these. Maybe penetrating shot. Maybe penetrating shot or forceful shot if you've got maybe a crossbow, but I don't even think so. Few people do use multi-shot. That's the one that sort of shoots like a shotgun when somebody's like really close in your face, but it's just like, would I rather that, or would I rather, you know, a field ration? I rather the field ration every time. Let's go on to the skills. The skills I'm using currently, and the ones that I believe the best, are Nimble Hands, so using a bow increases your draw speed by 15%. Kinesthesia, so when moving with the bowstring drawn, your movement speed is increased by 10%. Ranged Weapon Mastery for just a flat 5% increase to damage. And then Spear Proficiency. If you don't use Spear, or you don't like Spear for whatever reason, obviously you can change that. I have tried... I see a few people trying Chase or using Chase. Very useful when rogues are invisible and things like that. It's something to be able to spot them. You're like, oh, what the hell are these footsteps? Or that it can come in handy in a good few situations. Trap Mastery is also really good. You know, if you're, like I was saying before, you've got 2, 4, 6 traps, maybe even more, and you're just throwing these traps all over the place and you're wanting to get them out quickly, Trap Mastery could be important to you. I've tried Enhanced Hearing. Sometimes I believe that it could be good, but then I feel like maybe I'm just trolling myself when I think that. I know a lot of people say Enhanced Hearing is kind of like garbage, it's no point in using it whatsoever, but if Enhanced Hearing helps you hear a person from further away, so you can put a trap down before they can hear you put the trap down, then that's beneficial, right? But then I'm not 100,000% how accurate that is, that Enhanced Hearing. I need to do some more testing on that one. Cripple Shot is really good. Give them a slow when you shoot them in the legs. Very good. You know, it's certainly a good way to keep fighters away from you when they've got their shields and they're turtling up and crouch and try to hold that shield all the way over them, you know, and you can just see their little toes sticking out the bottom of the shield. Nice to have that, because when you start shooting them and they freaking out and they want to start running at you, they've got a nice little slow on them. And Sharpshooter is obviously a really good choice as well, because it's just an increased damage on the headshot. So if you're good with it and you know you can get headshots, go for it. That's what I would say. Let's move on over and talk about the weapons as well now. So the Woodsman is going to be where you get your bows and your arrows and your traps. Like I said to you earlier, you can buy up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 traps before they are wiped, and then you cannot buy any more. You just stash your excess in your storage, like I do. I find that's the easiest way, and just stock up on them. When you're running in with this many traps, it really does change the game. You can start to block off so much of the map, it's actually ridiculous. So this is going to be where you get your bows and things like that, and of course your weaponsmith is going to be where you want to get pick up your spears if you do grab them, or you know, arming swords or whatever you want to use as a ranger. Really, again, I think the spear personally is best, and I think that's probably what you should use as well. But obviously, it's up to you. Of course, it is. Let's talk about the types of bows. So there's 3 types of bows. You've got survival bow, you've got the recurve bow, and you've got the long bow. The survival bow, just think of it as a spectrum. You know, you've got the survival bow that sort of hits like a wet noodle but is incredibly fast, and then you've got the long bow that sort of hits really hard, but, you know, shoots fairly slow. The longbow, by far, is the most popular to use, just because of the amount of damage that you can do with it. But I would not say that's any reason to turn your nose up at recurve bows or anything like this. I got a very nice roll on this recurve bow the other day. 2+2 move speed, +3 physical damage. Can't go wrong with that. So you can get some recurve bows that, you know, can slap really hard, and they've got the benefit of being able to shoot far faster than a longbow. So every day you'd want to choose the recurve bow in that sense, right? If you can find a green recurve bow, I'd take that over grey longbow. But if you can find a green longbow, wow, then it starts to get, you know, more interesting. So out of those 3 bows, that's sort of what it's like. You'll notice the survival bow, like I say, you'll go through so many arrows as well. With a survival bow, you will chew through so many arrows, and that's something you've got to be conservative of. So the longbow, you can argue, is a lot more conservative with its ammo usage anyway. Guys, so that's the weapons. That's the skills, the perks. You've seen a game, sort of a rundown of how it plays. This has been How to Solo Ranger. I really hope you've enjoyed the videos. I would really appreciate it if you could give me a like and give me a subscribe. One day, I hope to be able to do this full time. That is the dream. So let's try and get there one step at a time, eh? Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Thank you very much for all your support, and have a great day. We'll be back soon with Solo Ranger PvP. Let's go. See you next time.